Welcome, everyone who's on the call or on the live stream. You know who you are. Special guest today, Lydia Andrews is in the house. Lydia, how are you? Brett, looking fly on those with the shades on, man.
Oh, sorry.
No, leave them on, dude. I love them. Blue steel. Yeah. So today is all about design. It's about entrepreneurship. It's about having a good time with your friends. Check out my background. I know I'm already expecting to see text messages and chats about this. Those are golf clubs. That is a roof rack. I'm in my shed today, having this call. My daughter's birthday was yesterday, and so working from home. But yes, without further ado, today's special guest is Lydia Andrews from Maple and Moss Designs. Lydia, how are you?
I am doing fabulous.
Where are you right now? It's significantly better background than what Brett and I are rocking right now.
What I love is that you're not even hiding it. You're not even doing like the fake background. You're like, this is me. This is me right now. This is my life.
Mm-hmm. I moved the Christmas tree just a minute or two ago before we all got on the call, because I didn't want anyone who was watching this on the YouTube channel to get confused at what time of year it was, but that's okay. So.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I kind of miss it now that you said you don't have it, but that's fair. This background has been a very long awaited project of building an ADU behind our house. So we live downtown. We didn't want to really move, and market was crazy. So we decided to build on. So we have, it's a separate unit, but we have the upstairs as a short-term rental now. And the downstairs is now our office / guest room / kind of a garage. It's like a storage room now. So it was a way to stay in the same space and make more space as we added to our family and ran out of space. So
that's
it's
cool.
kind of, you have the pretty
back
side
into that as we chat about some questions. So, but I guess before we jump into your story, because it's one of the most captivating things I love hearing about from you. I want to ask you on the spot, no prep. I didn't even send you questions ahead of time. So good on you for this, but give me a quote that's impacted your life and business recently.
Oh my God. Do you follow Brandon Burchard?
No.
Burchard.
But
great.
Yeah, go for it. I know of him though. Keep going.
He's a life business coach, and I could look it up. If you would have sent me this question, I would have had it for you perfectly written out on it.
Don't worry. I'll cut out this dead space and it'll just sound like you had it like right on the spot on your head. So you don't even worry about it.
Well, he talks about business ownership a lot, and he's a business coach online. And he said, the difference between people who make it in the world of entrepreneurship and people who don't is the way that they view failure. Is it a gift or is it a hindrance, essentially? Yeah. And that even the word failure is inappropriate, because entrepreneurs, if they are healthy and smart, will learn and gain knowledge from every decision they've made, and not to be afraid to enter into something you may fail at, because, you're not going to know how to do it right if you've never done it before. So that's where I'm currently sitting, is, the fear of starting something new in a new chapter and it not going the way I hope for it to go. But instead, the mentality of, oh no, like I probably am going to fail at this, but it's just a better stepping stone to gaining more knowledge in this area.
Ooh, I love that. Okay.
That wasn't the whole quote. That was the extended version of the quote.
The impactful part.
Yeah.
All right. Well, not that massive amounts of failure is what's on the horizon for our conversation today. Obviously, we're talking about interior design, and it's an impact in the real estate space, and how as agents, it's prudent for us to have people like you in their corner, right, when it's necessary. Mm-hmm. So maybe give me a little bit about yourself and your business. Give me your version of who you are and what you do and how you got there. And if you need me to pull up your slides, I know you sent me some read ahead slides. If you want those now as you answer this, let me know and I'll get them prepped too.
Well, so I started Maple and Moss as a staging business originally. Didn't have a lot of background in it, but moved here from Los Angeles, where I'd done a few stagings with Realtors, and was more of an assistant. And then I moved here and, just kind of saw a need for updated style. And I started a business out of my garage and put $2,000 on a credit card and That's how I started Maple Moss Designs in a corner of my garage. That's no longer, but I'm sitting in it. This is what I'm sitting in. So it's a
In the
really great
garage.
60. Yeah, this is now where I started.
Okay, then
Um,
I'm really confused as to how the failure quote was like the first thing that came to your mind, because the background does not look like failure if you started from a $2,000 credit card to there, you know.
That's really sweet. Well, you're the same. You and I are very similar people. So, there's always something new on the horizon that I'm shooting for. So, but yeah, so I started as a staging business, rented out the furniture at first, and then started putting that money back into buying my own furniture and then getting a warehouse and getting a team, and really enjoyed it. And I'm very grateful for it, but ended up doing a lot more with builders and model homes with the stagings. And then I started doing design in that realm. And then I started getting a lot of requests for interior design, which again, walking into that space was going, well, man, I know what I'm doing, but I don't have a degree in this. Could I really do this? And then, my team started to grow and I started to feel more confident in that. And so I recently just sold the staging side of the business. And now we're just focused on working with builders and interior design for residents, commercial, and a lot of short-term rental design.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, before we get too deep into like why design important and where and how and which and all of those other conjunctions, maybe give me an example. Share with me a story of some failure and what you learned from it.
Oh, just one.
More if you want. Sky's the limit.
I think kind of an ongoing failure I tend to have as a creative is to have a really great idea and a really great reasoning for that idea and not putting the finances to back it. When I say that, I mean, man, this is going to work. My gut's telling me it's going to work. And it probably really could work, but not doing the digging on the financial side of it in order to support that vision or that idea or creative endeavor. Because I think one, it intimidates me, because I am a creative and I don't have that side of my brain thinking numbers. But the other part is the fear of not being able to do it because I don't feel like I have enough financial backing or, just like wherewithal of how to, manage my money. And it's not been an issue yet, but it is an issue for me. I always end up making it work, but I think that's a huge failure on my end to not forecast and look to the future with my finances and make decisions based on that. I tend to go, this feels right and it's creative. It's a great idea. Let's go.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
All right. No, absolutely makes sense. All right. So then I guess let's transition a little bit now, since you kicked staging to the curb, and in our segue to kicking this staging to the curb, I'm trying to go with good puns. I'm not doing great today about on the pun front. Let's chit chat about. I'd love to hear your opinions about some of the agents that you've worked with in the past. We've had lengthy conversations about this. I'm trying to sum it up in a more of a kernel here, but
Sure.
the agents in the past that you've worked with that have engaged you guys with your staging services, and the pros and cons of doing that, and how you guys have been able to come alongside them and really and benefit. And then I would also say maybe sneak in some cons in there too. Over the past few years, we've had this crazy like up and down market where, it didn't matter if it was a house and the lights were on and it had an address, it'd sell in 24 hours. And the market isn't like that anymore. And so we're kind of back in this phase where, properties that, are pricey or in specific, niches, they're gonna sit for 30 something days. How do you make them pop? And staging is one of those ways. So I'll go for it. Go for it.
Okay. It was pretty difficult to convince real estate agents who weren't currently staging or hadn't staged in the past to start staging, either because of the demographic of who that agent was, usually like 60, 65 plus, not to make generalizations, but like, hey, I've done it this way forever. I'm going to continue to do it this way forever, or the fear of, again, I don't want to put thousands of dollars towards staging. We can just take really good pictures, of either what they currently have or a vacant home. So, what I found, to answer your first part of the question, is the real estate agents that continually used us, sight unseen. Sometimes they hadn't even seen the home in person yet, and they booked us. They were the ones turning out deals left and right. They were the ones that had assistants, and their assistants had assistants, and because they were a huge team and they knew what they were doing. And their home stood out from other homes because they, 95% of buyers looking won't even go into a home if they don't like the photos online. So if you've already lost them before they've come into the house, then you're not doing yourself any favors. So the only cons I can see to staging would be if we've had this experience before where we tried to limit the cost for certain agents, whether because they were like, they've been with us from the beginning, or we were trying to, just get in with them for the first time. And we'd say, oh, here's, it's going to be $2,500 to stage this living, dining, kitchen area. And they go, man, I was really hoping to spend like, no more than like $1,200. And, you're like the entrepreneur and you're like, oh man, I really want to get them. I know if I can just get them, I know if I can just,
right.
sell them on this and they'll want me every time. And it's the opposite, because what you end up having is like a shittier stage. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah.
And so now you have like less quality because you've tried to hit a price point they feel comfortable with. And now you've lost them in general. So I would say, like, don't try to just accessorize your stagings. Don't try to just throw a chair in the corner. It actually looks even worse than it would just for a vacant home. It's a huge pet peeve of mine. And once we did one or two of those, I was like, yeah, we're not going to do those again. But I would say either go for it or don't add dinky things, in there. And one thing we did that was huge, and a lot of agents did pay for, is if you have a currently occupied staging, meaning the client is not moving out of the house, they're living there while showing it. Huge benefit was coming from those staging consultations. We would be the bad guy, not the agent. We would come in and say, hey, you need to like take half the stuff off this bookshelf. You need to take this love seat away and put 2 smaller chairs from the basement. Like, we would repurpose everything they had, and we would make the home look 10 times better. It was like a 3-hour.
I didn't even realize like that was a thing that you could ask a stager to do. That's genius.
Oh yeah.
I feel like as a hack. Yeah, you agents that are listening to this right now, like that's got to be a huge cost savings too.
Yeah, and I think we were charging like $150 at first. Like it was nothing. And the differences between what we started with and what we ended with was insane. And, we got really, really good at just walking into space and being like, okay, we need to lift this rug up and don't have any bath mats in the bathroom, and go buy Costco white towels just for the pictures. You know what I mean? Or turn them if you have to. Like, but yeah, then we got to be the bad guy, and agents weren't like, well, that really great shrine of your dead dog, it needs to like go away. Which we have had shrines of dead dogs.
Yeah, that feels like a scary rabbit hole to ask you more information about. But I think this is a really rare opportunity for the agents on the call to like hear these types of stories, right? Like, most people that are stagers, if we're in this conversation, they're currently stagers, and you've like won multiple things with like multiple parade of homes. How many times have you guys won a parade of home? I don't
know. We won like almost. I think we've won every year, and we're doing 5 homes this year.
Wow. Okay.
It's a thing. I mean,
it's a lot. Well, I know, I appreciate the humility in there or whatever, but like not all the stagers or interior designers in Colorado Springs are doing parade of homes that are winning, right? So like, I don't know. This is your chance. I'm going to give you a soapbox. Get on the soapbox and rant and rave about why staging is important, why it makes the difference.
Yeah.
And if you're an agent, how much power it can give you. Like, Brett and I love to try to find things and talk with people that can give differentiating factors to the agents that are in our influence circles, right? You commit to doing this one thing, or you add this arrow to your quiver, and it's going to separate you from the pack, right?
Oh, and I think especially in Colorado Springs, like, and that there's nothing against Colorado Springs real estate agents. They're great. But if you go to the East Coast or the West Coast or any major city in our country and you don't stage a home, like, I'm not hiring you as a client. Like, it's a given. The agents will just cover your home being staged. It's not a question. Now I have seen agents do a percentage in a way. So like, if you're afraid to take that leap, I've seen agents say, hey, when the home sells, I will, I'll pay for 50% of the staging out of my commission or whatever. Like, they find ways in order to not have to pay for the whole thing. So that's if you wanted to get your feet wet and like not having to cover the whole cost. But I'm telling you, like, I mean, I don't even feel like I have to be like, stage the home. You should be staging the homes because they look better. They photograph better. You're going to have 10 times more people come to that showing than on the first day than you would if your photos are just, grandma's sofa.
Yeah, I think we spend a lot of time talking about customer journey in a myriad of like ways, right? And I think it's like it's a weird nebulous concept as a real estate agent to think about what is my customer journey for a client, right? But having some ability to create a wow factor when they're looking at the house is not rocket science. I don't know if you get a lot of other moments to be impactful,
Well,
right?
and with like HGTV and with all of these like reality shows now showing what a home could look like, buyers want to come in and be like, oh, I'm home. Like, oh, like it's that first 15 seconds. It's the first 15 seconds or you've lost them. And so a lot of times what I would tell agents is like, hey, if you don't want to stage a whole house, I get it. Like, I don't actually want to stage the entire house either, but the living, dining, kitchen, do it. Entryway, do it. Like, if you're going to just spend it on the rooms, those are the rooms. And if you want to do it, like, if my rule of thumb was if a master bedroom's really, really big, you should stage it because people walk in and go like, I don't know what I would do with this space. And if the master bedroom is really, really small, you should stage the space because actually, contrary to what you would think, a small room feels bigger with furniture in it. If you walk in a tiny room and it's like a little, like, 8x9, you're going to be like, I can't fit furniture in here. But if you can actually fit like a full bed and 2 nightstands, like, they're like, oh, look, actually, it's pretty decent size. You can fit a full bed in here.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because when Narissa and I had our house listed last time, we live in this 60s house. It's got a shallow garage. And our agent was like, she drives a Land Rover. He's like, keep the Land Rover in the garage because people are going to open this garage and they're going to think it's small. But if you got this huge Land Rover parked in there, they're going to be like, oh yeah, this garage is clearly like large enough. You know what I mean? So,
and it's funny how split second, that the mind is like, if you already like the house and you want to like it more, if you keep giving them little clues as to why it's fine, why this works, why this is okay. And we can go into that later with like the renderings and ideas for that with design. But, then it just urges people to be like, see, it's great. It's great. It's perfect. It's the one we wanted. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're listening to this, you're clearly interested in why staging. I think why staging works. I think you need the push to go, I'm gonna commit to doing 5 stages in a row for my clients, and I'm gonna gauge how much better those do than when I haven't staged.
One thing I've like talked with a lot of agents before too, and they're kind of on the fence about. They have this like linear concept of like, okay, I'm going to stage and the only impact that it makes is that I'm staging the house. And it's like, no way, dude, come up with different ways to take advantage of the fact that you staged the house, right? Like film a bunch of social media content that's like in there, like get a photographer in there and take a bunch of great photos and like use that for B-roll or for posting like later. There's like 100 different things that you can use to make the value of like what you paid to like make sense, but again, we've got this rare moment for you where you're not doing staging anymore. So be raw, make fun of the agents, not even make fun of, but like, why
do you think I got out of staging?
Why aren't agents staging? Like literally, like what are the weak, lame excuses, the stories that the agents are telling themselves for like why they shouldn't do it or don't do it? That's like holding them back, right? I mean, like it's not ill thought to be like, yeah, a house that is staged is better. Like I get that. So what's the obstacle that you're sensing from them?
Okay, first is price. I think the idea of like cost, I was a very reasonable stager. I talked to other stagers in the city that charged almost double I did. So I think you can start at 3,000 easily for stagers now. So it's expensive. I mean, it costs a good amount of money. But But to break it down for you, and I won't bore you with that, with the moving fees, hiring movers and trucks and packing and unpacking, and there's a lot that goes into it. So money, I think, is the first thing. The second thing, I think agents have this idea of like timing, like I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, right? So it's like, I got to get this listed as fast as possible. We got to get it cleaned, got to get this. And there's this like urgency, this like sense of just now, yesterday. And that was part of the reason it was so stressful to be a stager, is because I would get calls from agents like, hey, so yeah, I have this property tomorrow. Could you like stage it tomorrow? I'm like,
You're like, yeah, I just got back from Hot Topic. I've got 100 inflatable couches in my car. I'll be over there in 20 minutes.
Yeah. So I think there's this like urgency to get it listed, and to have to wait on a stager a week and a half, which I think a week is super reasonable to ask for a time frame, I think makes them go, well, if I don't do this within a week, I'm not making my client happy, right? Like my client wants this done as soon as possible. And so I think the idea of timing is huge too. So money and timing. I don't know. I also think and at the end of the day, real estate agents are pleasers to a point. And I think if their clients might show this hesitancy to stage, or to have someone come in and tell them what to do with their stuff, I think the agent then feels like, well, I don't want to like, they go from let me be the leader to like, let you lead me. And so I'm going to let my client's opinion dictate how we move forward. So I think there's probably the awkwardness of, people are really attached to their homes, and some people don't want to move, and some people are sad to move, and to come in and move all their crap around. And that's why it takes such a delicate person to walk in and be like, love this photo painting of your nude grandmother's, sister, whatever. It's so pretty over the fireplace. But some people, I don't know why, might be offended. Not sure why. Or like all of the Jesus things all over the house. There's so many Jesus things. And we just have to be like, listen, some people just, wouldn't appreciate, and people
There's a lot of
get
Jesus.
upset. They get offended. Yeah. And you have to
He
say
may
it in a
have
way
risen,
that
but he didn't re-rise here. So maybe let's tone it
the
down.
cross wall has got to go.
That's funny. We'll do this one time. You made me telling me about this, like the whole idea of moving someone's like crap around.
Yeah.
I had this Airbnb in downtown Colorado Springs. I still have it today, but like it was like the first few months that I had it listed. Okay. And I was worried for my Airbnb to be successful. So I paid like a photographer to come in and set everything up and take all the pictures and upload them to Airbnb. And anyways, I had this guest who stayed. And as she checked out, she like messaged me and say, hey, I'm gone. And she said, I just want to let you know that I consult on interior designing all the time, and the feng shui of your house was a little off. And so I did you a favor and made it better. And so when I got inside the house, she'd moved everything in my house, like all the paintings everywhere, all the furniture was on. I was like, now it doesn't match the listing photos. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean?
Was it better?
I don't know. I don't know anything about feng shui. That's why you're on the call, and I'm not. Like, I have no idea. But anyways, it was pretty funny to think. Even in that moment, I don't know if I necessarily feel like was attached to anything in that house. Obviously, I put it on Airbnb. Like, it's my stuff. Like, I'm clearly used to comfortable strangers touching it. But I still felt a little weird in that moment. Like, wait a second, why did you move all my stuff around? Like, I set it up this way. You know what I mean? And
yes.
so
yeah, it's a whole, interior design and staging are just completely different beasts. And you do have to have an eye for both. But the way in which you're handling clients in this transition, I think that's why I fell in love with it at first, because home, going to start getting really like, in my feels, but like home to me, and the idea of being home and feeling a space that you belong in is like really at the center of why I do what I do. Yeah, it's a bunch of stuff and it's pretty, but it's not about that. It's about home. And I think I felt really attached, and I felt really connected to my clients, that I got to be a part of this transition from one home to the next, or from selling a home to going to, and I'm sure that's why real estate agents love what they do too. It's a really impactful, huge part of someone's life to move and to leave a space and come into a new space. And So I fell in love with staging because of that reason. And then I got burnt out because of that reason.
Ah.
And so, yeah.
I was gonna say before we jumped into that, Brett was gonna say something and we cut him off.
Sorry, it's sometimes really hard to jump in when Ian's talking because he's the extroverted one that won't shut up, and I'm tend to be a little more quiet.
True.
So I'm on the call too. Just want to ask you a couple of questions. I actually have a design background. I've got an interior design degree, and I used to design restaurants and hotels for a living way back in my previous life.
Nice.
I'd like to say that I, actually pray to the god of aesthetic. Is the most important thing. Is something that looks good. I think an interesting thing to talk about for agents is just kind of the idea. What I see in the world today is you walk in a restaurant, you can tell that they looked at Pinterest and got all the ideas from Pinterest, and they actually hired Pinterest board and just looked at it.
Yep.
Everything has been millennial gray with wrought iron pipe. That's why you walk in, everything's the same color, everything looks the same. You talk about the importance of hiring an actual designer, that your grandmother isn't the designer, the rich Broadmoor lady isn't the designer. The designer is somebody who has a knowledge base around aesthetic and ideas and history and all that stuff. We just maybe talk a little bit about the importance of aesthetic, the importance of design, as opposed to
Yes. I totally agree. I mean, I think Ian and I talk a lot about hiring people that are smarter than you. And I do have an eye for design, and I don't have an interior design background. I think that tends to make my heart sink sometimes when people ask. And I've learned to go, you know what, though, like my sense of balance and color scheme and, my ability to hear a client's needs and wants and function is far beyond what education could have taught me, that I can sit down at a table and get someone immediately, get what their style is and what they're hoping to get out of the space. But hiring other people that have skills in SketchUp and CAD, hiring other people who can bring to the table, a different aesthetic than I maybe would gravitate towards. But I think, when people say, oh yes, I do interior design, or I used to interior design, I think it's that's great. I'm really happy that you love to design things, I'm really and it is an artistic thing. So to be able to judge that, you and I probably both agree, yes, Brett and I agree, you love doing design. That's great for you. But to come into someone's home and professionally or restaurant or, it's a feeling, Brett, if you would agree with me, it's a feeling of walking into a space and knowing that it's been curated in a way that every detail, it's in the details that have been thought through, and I think,
I guess what I'm trying to get at is the importance of actually hiring somebody who is a designer, but
yes,
just
yep, absolutely. Not only in the aesthetic, not only in the details, but it's in the way that they know how to ask the right questions, create a timeline, follow a structure, know a product. And you can design your living room all day and I'm sure it looks great, but can you walk someone through a customer experience that is professional? That's a completely different story. So yes, it is important to hire a professional interior designer.
All right. Well, then I think that was the greatest segue question possible that Brett could have had, because today you prepared for us a little bit of a chat around why design matters. I'm going to share the screen with the slides that you gave us. So those of you just listening, too bad you have to look. So here we go. And yeah, so I guess Lydia, we'll let you kind of take over at this point. And then Brett and I will kind of sit back and ask questions as you walk through this conversation space with us. And so go for it.
Great. So I kind of put this little ditty together, both to, connect real estate, but also to just kind of explain what we do and the different facets and how we do some of our services. So I put the finally your home in there. I threw that at Ian a little while back. And I think it does represent, the life of why I do what I do. And again, it's the idea of home. finally it's your home and you are home. So it's kind of a little play on that, but the idea of like home is not necessarily a building. It is the comfort level that you feel inside of it. It's that instinct you get, like Brett was talking about, when you walk into, you know, a restaurant and you're like, dang, this feels awesome, versus walking in and going, this feels like it's been done 100 times. And what are those differences? So, we do pride ourselves that design is for everyone. There's a lot of pushback on that because, you know, usually people who hire interior designers can afford to hire interior designers, and it's thousands and thousands of dollars. And ironically, right before COVID hit, I was like, you know, I want to do design a little differently. I don't want to do the stereotypical, we purchase everything for you, upcharge it, deal with the shipping and the warehouse and all of that. How can we do this differently so everyone can have interior design? Because I kept getting and hearing from clients, just tell me what to buy. Just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Right. But that's still valuable time. Like it's the same when friends, you know, all of us have this with our businesses, when friends are like, hey, could you just like tell me, could you just tell me what curtains to buy? I'm like, that is like hours for me. I'm not going to just like throw you to Pinterest. I'm going to like really look for you. So I came up with our virtual design platform, and the idea is it's still personalized to all of our clients. But it's a virtual way to be able to render your space, to create mood boards, and to create product selection guide boards that you can approve and decline. And then we can go back and forth on product virtually in a hub, basically just for the designer and the client. And then once they've approved everything, we actually send them the purchase list with all the detail and information. They order it directly to their home. And because we've 3D rendered the entire thing, they know exactly where to put every single thing. And then of course we'll do a follow-up with them and make sure, you know, the space is how they want, they need anything changed. So it's an idea of getting them from A to Z without actually having to do the full gamut and charge the full gamut of what a typical traditional interior designer would do. There's not a lot of hand-holding. And that's been great because we've been able to eliminate the people who want to talk about a lamp for 22 minutes. And that's just not really my clientele. So, so I want the clients that are like, help me with my space. I have no idea what to do. I trust you, you know, and I care about their feedback, obviously, and want to make it based on them. And then COVID happened, which was awesome because everyone was sitting around their house like, I freaking hate my house. I hate my home. I hate everything about it. And so we were able to kind of capitalize on the fact that like everyone was sitting at home in their spaces that they wanted to DIY. And then we created this, you know, virtual design platform, and it did great. So yeah, so that is in a nutshell, the virtual side of it, which is this first slide. And this is local design. So local design is anytime we work with commercial offices, restaurants, and residential homes that are in the city. We do our virtual platform still with a lot of these because, again, it just makes selecting and choices go so much quicker because we're able to have less hours when we're communicating virtually on a product rather than in person. So we still like to capitalize or utilize the virtual side of it, but we're a lot more hands-on with the local. We're doing renovations, which has been interesting. And I'm every day, the past, month, have been plotting on how can I keep the same mentality that we took with interior design to virtual design, and how can we do that with renovation in a way that's a little more systemized, if you will. And yeah, that's kind of currently what we're working on now. We do a lot of short-term rentals in the city, and it's great. We work with local investors and property management companies. Sometimes we have investors from out of the city, and they're like, hey, just hire this designer, and we go in and we'll do renovation selections. We'll work with the contractor, and then we'll do all the purchasing, ordering, delivering, install, and everything is done for them. So that's been a huge addition in the past couple of years. Because as you know, like Colorado Springs booming with the short-term rental side.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
These are some of the local companies we work with. Vantage Homes, we're doing their parades. Galler Homes, I'm not sure if you're familiar. They're a boutique builder in town, and they're awesome. We've started working with their clients, so they're hiring us to come in to do all of the selections for the entire home, and these are pretty massive properties. So that's been a huge undertaking to systemize that, and now working more in a team environment with my team. We have 5 on our team now. Oakwood Homes, we were doing stagings for, we're doing parade. We do parades for them usually every year. And then Renjoy is part of the short-term rental, Flat Files, and office company they hire all over the country. They hire, it's like a SaaS company, like a tech company, and they offer full paid renovation of home offices for their new hires. And we get to do that for them. So they've hired us as like a third party that come in, and then we do our virtual design on the offices with all of their new employees. And it's been really awesome. And that's been since COVID as well. So it's all virtual. Yeah. And then Curate Your Space, Simple Sort. And then Wall to Wall Staging, who I want to throw out, ended up buying Maple and Moss. She was trying to get out of an interior design, and I was trying to get out of staging, and we both just kind of flip-flopped, and it's been great. They're awesome. Her name is Cindy and Emily, and they do amazing work. So if you are looking for stagers, I highly recommend Wall to Wall.
I'll put their contact information below in the show notes.
Great. And then mini design sessions. This is my plug to you guys. If you have anything that I think would be one of the best closing gifts, I really do think doing a mini design session would kill. It would just kill it for your client. So imagine like you're moving into a new space, you have all your old furniture, and you're like, I'm not sure how it's going to fit. I'm not sure what to do with the space. I have no creative ideas yet because it's fresh. Offering a mini design session where we come in and do consultations. We get them started with a plan. We create mood boards for them. It's essentially 4 to 5 hours of our time, but it gets us in the door to start getting them ideas and, practical, tactical ways to use the furniture in their space currently. And then if they want to move forward with us and like a phase 1 of, a design, then we're there. But they're $4.95 for a mini design session. And I just think it's a really awesome gift that you can give your client in order to get them started, to feel at home, essentially.
That's pretty sweet. And are they conducted like virtually? Are they in that virtual space you were talking about?
So we can do it virtually. We've done a couple virtually. They really are beneficial to do in person. And typically when someone calls and they're like, I don't really know what to do with my space, and, I just need help getting started with some ideas. You can tell they're super vague, right? Some people call and they know exactly, like, I want to work on my living room. It doesn't feel right. I want to buy all new furniture. It's like, that's a phase 1 client for us. When someone calls and they're like, I just need some guidance, that's them saying, I need ideas and I don't know where to start. And so we get our foot in the door through a mini design session, and then of course say, so you ready to get started? Let us help you. But this at least gives them, our time, energy, and our, consulting on their space with a few little additives afterward.
Yeah, I think this is great. I think as an agent, I'm sure that there's probably a handful of times that they could articulate that they've tried to list a house for sale, and there's that one room in the house or this one collection of like rooms that just doesn't like vibe, or it just is awkward, and you just know this is going to be where everyone is going to get hung up and have comments or questions or negative feedback on it or whatever. I think it'd be cool. Yeah, it'd be really smart to do a mini design session like this and kind of at least be prepared to show and express even just verbally different ways that you could address the space. Yeah, for sure.
Sure. Or even people who had bought the house, right? It's like, let me help them with this space. The buyer's agent can say, welcome to your new home, and here's a mini design session, someone to come in and help you with your new space. Yeah. So I think, and we were talking about, we do renderings for the virtual side, but it would be really, you know, Ian and I were talking, like, if you had a very dated kitchen, say in the Old North End, and you know, everybody who walks that kitchen is going to be like, ooh, like this, you're selling this house for $1.5 million and this kitchen looks like this? Like, really? And it's going to be the point of contention. It's like, well, then get a rendering drawn up of like what the kitchen could look like and have it out and gift it with the house. Like maybe you paid a couple $100 to have that rendering done, but like now you have this gorgeous setup of like what they could do with the space visually. And they can have, you know, they can have that idea or that rendering, whatever, with the sell of the home, but it's just another way to show people can't visualize. And I think when you're an expert at what you do, you don't understand how people can't do it. You have to get out of your brain. Like, how do I have a job? You know, how do people not know how to just put things together? Right.
Right.
It's why I have an accountant because,
Right.
because I need an accountant. Okay. But yeah, I have to remind myself all the time, like people can't see it. Like I can walk in and see it. They can't. So having something on paper on the island of the kitchen that looks like crap to show how great it could look might just be the thing that sells the home.
I also think that like it goes beyond just maybe the immediate house that the rendering drawings could like be for. So like if you're an agent, it's your listing and you're looking for more listings in the future, right? Like how gorgeous for you to go to that listing appointment in the futuristic one and point back to like, hey, if you've got an awkward spot in your house, this is something that I can do for you. Here's proof that I've done it like before.
Sure.
It makes it even more valuable to come up with that rendering for that awkward kitchen in the Old North End for the house that should be sold for 1.5, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Awesome.
I don't know what so how we can help you with your clients. I think mini design packages are a great gift. I think renovation inspiration, which we just talked about, the idea of like this space could be this. And then short-term investment properties, like for anyone who's really looking at getting an investment property, I'll tell you like firsthand, I'm sitting below our investment property that's upstairs right now. And, you know, like it was a rough go even for me. Like I feel like I pride myself in like, you know, I get dirty. I understand the contractor world. I understand. And when you live through it, it's like, holy crap. So it was almost a year of like through permitting and all of it to get it done. And I mean, we're like sold out. Like I'm like, it's renting. Oh my God, it's renting. But there was so much energy and effort and time I put into every space of that design. And I can tell you, like, we're renting a 1-bedroom for like over $250 a night, you know? And it's like that, it's because the space looks so freaking cool that like, and it's attracting people. We want to be renting that space. You know, they're going to hopefully take care of it. And, you know, they're willing to pay that price because they want to have an experience. They want to like feel an experience when they stay somewhere. So it's so worth the upfront investment to have a designer help you with your short-term rental. Again, photos too, you know, like are they going to stay here? Or are they going to pay $10 less and stay there? Like what makes you different?
Yeah. $10 can make or break, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it's just photos. I mean, go to our website, but yeah, these are just most of these are short-term rentals.
That's cool. All right. Give me some stories here of some of the stuff that we're like looking at here. Look at this gorgeous one of these beams exposed. These.
Yes. So we had them dark stain those just to add a little bit of a depth. This house actually, you sometimes just walk in a house, you're like, this is such a Colorado vibe. Like there's not a lot we need to do to it. So we lightened some walls. And like, you know, that table's AFW, those chairs are AFW. I mean, probably in total, we paid like for that picture, it was probably like, you know, $1,300.
Wild.
And what I tell people too is like, you know, you don't want to buy crap for your, we've talked about this, Ian, you don't want to buy things that are going to fall apart because things will get used and they'll get used well. You also don't want to buy Crate and Barrel and Pottery Barn, you know, $4,000, $5,000 couches that you're going to have to replace in 2 years, probably anyway, because of wear and tear. So there's a middle ground. And I think we have found a really decent spending budget for people with short-term rentals, because we want it to be decent and hold up, but we don't want to break the bank in purchases. And there's been a couple things that we've bought and gotten emails like, hey, clients got rowdy and like the coffee table snapped in half. I'm like, how do you even how do you even do that?
Uh,
So
that's a story for a different day, I guess.
yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. They're all just, I don't know. It's actually a little crazy. I don't know if you guys have this in your work, but like I can look at a piece or a picture, and we've done so many homes and so many designs, and I go, oh, I remember when I found that at this place for this price. It's like this weird, creepy thing I have in my head of like, oh, I think that was like $42.99, and I think I got it at Home Goods on sale when I was like walking through it. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have that kind of weird quality.
No, but it sounds like you need to go on The Price is Right. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I remember everything. I remember every single space. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Brett, you got any questions, man?
No, it's all great. I like that mini design package is a pretty cool thing. I think it's a great a great first home buyer gift. I think it's wonderful. I'm glad you do that.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
the mini package designs for me, I agree with what Brett was talking about. Like, that's really freaking awesome. I hadn't heard of that idea before. But as I'm trying to like extrapolate that, it feels like what you're really selling is the importance of vision for the future like homeowner. Could you maybe give an example or two of some places that you've saw or you've seen that you've experienced with buyers that like maybe they bought something that like really needed a lot of vision for them to like execute on like the purchase, and
Yeah.
like and I don't know, surrounding that. I think that I don't know, Colorado Springs is just so eclectic, right? Like we have a really big percentage of places to buy property. This is really Colorado, I think, as a whole, that aren't suburbia. And so it can be difficult sometimes, like walk into a space and see that. So I don't know, spend a few minutes and talk about like why vision's so important for home buyers.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off what you're saying, I always look up the address because I know that if we are, off 8th Street or in Skyway, I know what I'm walking into, as opposed to if I'm going into like a 90s build, and I can pretty much kind of guarantee what I'm walking into before the consultation, where it is, right? Like if I'm on the Old North End versus off Briargate versus, and typically, obviously, I'll talk to the client before I get there, but a lot of times the call is, hey, we just bought a home and we have a couple awkward spaces and we don't know what to do with them. And a lot of times it's like the simplest answer, right? Like all of those 90s niches. Do you know what I'm talking about? How everyone like created boxes for TVs?
Yeah.
For their huge ass TVs. Do you know how many times we get calls that they're like, we don't know what to do with this? I was like, you frame it and you drywall it and you make it flat again. Like it's not rocket science to me, right? Like get rid of the box. Like we're not going to put old suitcases in it anymore. We're going to we're going to make it streamlined and clean. Or there's Skyway where it's like, it has a front entry room that's tiny. And I can only imagine like the architects are like, this is where we have our pre-drinks. This is where we sit to like, pre-party. So for me, it's fun to walk into those spaces and try to find a solvent for it. But it runs a full gamut of, a lot of times we have calls like, I have this huge wall. What do I put on it? What do I put on this huge wall? And then we have to like dissect, do we want art? And Curate Your Space we work with, I had on my list. It's actually right across from Brooklands. It's a couple gals that work locally. So they'll work with homeowners and local artists and they'll source for you. So we use them and we will ask people like, do you want a local artist? You're going to pay more, but you're also not getting just like some painting that we find.
I own an art gallery, by the way, too, just so you know.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Oh,
just,
well, oh,
just
hey,
ask
what
Brett.
don't,
Yeah.
what don't you do, Brett?
Yeah, I first one in the city, 16 years. So just so you know.
That's amazing. Well, now I'll just have to bug you, but I would much rather support local in anything that we do. And one of my ideas, and maybe someone will listen to me one day, I want to do, and you guys all keep it between you, all of you shush about it, but I want to do a local parade home. Like we've never done a fully local parade home where when people are walking through, it's all local trades, it's all local artists. I mean, obviously we can't get every piece of furniture local, but like if we can get our dining tables and we can get our artists work in there, and if we can get iron workers doing sconces, and we can, it's like, why aren't we supporting our local artists in these homes that everybody's walking through? And it all comes down to, money. It all comes down to being able to keep it in the home, like for Vantage, when I do a model for them, they usually have it open for 2 years, you know, so the artists have to be willing to like, I either have to replace it or they have to be willing to like loan their items for that long of time. And that's just kind of hard to get, but yeah.
All right,
I
well,
don't even know.
let's
I don't even know if I answered your question.
yeah, yes, yes. Let's wrap up today with, do you have a list of questions that you're kind of like always like listening for the client to say, or maybe that the real estate agent could like listen for in their clients, that they're saying these specific things, and that interior design and potentially staging, but maybe like specific to your design packages or whatever, that could be the solution for what it is that the client is like saying?
So you're saying like, what is like something key for the agent to listen to in order to find the right home?
I don't know about not the right home, but like whether or not it makes sense for them to engage with like sort of like design services or doing like staging or
Okay, so it's a twofold question, because I think the first answer is I think finding out the function of people's home is so important. I have a question on my survey to get to know someone, and it says like, how do you want your home to feel? And there's like a cozy, there's like it's like cozy, creative, like something about entertaining, right? Like, so like, are you showing your home off, or are you are you sinking into your home? And I think that's huge for a real estate agent to understand, is the function of someone's house. Like, just because they have young kids doesn't mean they need like a basement and a playroom. We don't have that. Like we want a space that feels like it's old and it tells a story and there's history to it. That's important to us. So I think not generalizing people based off of if they have kids or if they don't, or if they make a lot of money or they don't. It's like the function of how they want to live in their home is huge for me. And then that's what dictates so much of where we start on a project. And I think, yeah, I think anytime anyone can use interior design. So like for real estate agents, like I wonder if they could use services. I mean, I think anyone can use our services to better enhance their home to reflect who they are. So I don't know if there's any signals for real estate agents, but those are the signals we use in order to get to know someone and find the right space for them.
That's awesome. All right. So if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Go on our website, and then we have just an intake form. So under contact, you just fill out your email and we'll get back to you.
For those that are listening, what's the website?
www.mapleandmossdesigns.com.
Okay.
Ian, before I want to say a couple of things. A couple of questions. You jumped in before I had a chance to jump out. Yeah. Lydia, so one thing I think would be really important for you to talk about, especially the agents that are on here. Flipping homes and engaging a designer. Do you think that's a smart idea? Because again, I think a lot of people that flip, they all kind of do the Pinterest thing again. And you start seeing the same same like base palette of grays.
Yeah.
What do you think it's something, if you're flipping a home, it's important to engage a designer and bring them in and make those decisions up front to make the thing better to.
I think it's like pivotal, because like you said, if you're doing the gray washed, LVP and the gray walls and the, everything that was, it doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. And you have to understand that the trends, it's like in fashion, the same, like the trends that are happening now were actually like 5 years ago. And so the same is with interior design. If you want to be forward in people loving your space, they're already watching the trends change. We're just late to it as, the contractors and people who are flipping homes. And you have to understand, like, you're going to be 6, 7, 8 months down the line before it's completed. So like, get someone in there who is forward thinking and going, hey, like, make these small choices to stand out, make these tiny choices. And it's the same budget. That's the crazy part to me, is like, you're going to pay the same amount of money. We can stay in the same price range, but we're making better decisions for you.
I'm glad you said that. It's so true. I mean, like, back when I was, it's one of those things where people have this idea that design is something that's unattainable, But it really, if we can knock something home, it's that the idea of aesthetic is something that is so attainable and so important that you can actually, through a good design, increase sales, like if you're in a restaurant, I always say that, like, one of my favorite restaurants in New York City back in the early 2000s, like the most beautifully designed restaurant I've ever seen in my entire life. And what they did is they also sold Hungry Man frozen dinners on their menu, like legit. You'd walk in and spend $35 on a frozen fried chicken Hungry Man dinner with a little green beef. And you're like, but it's because the space was, and like,
Yes.
like, yeah, dude, I can totally, and if you make it feel cool, make it feel great.
Yeah.
It's so important. And that, so I'm really glad that you say that, because it is such an important thing that I think,
Yeah,
especially
because if you're paying a flat rate of like, you know, $3,000 to have our services, how much more are you making by having your space look 10 times better than if you would have made those choices yourself? You're like paying for us and then some. So yeah, it's always, it's not even an investment. You're profiting off of it. So
get a designer.
get a designer. Come on, get
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, so that way when you're on these calls, you don't have like a bike rack and golf clubs in your background looking like.
I keep telling Ian to help, let me come to the office. He said no. He said I'm not good enough. So
I've never said okay. All right. That's awesome. All right, Lydia. Well, we are so appreciative of you being here today, and I owe Brett another Negroni for constantly dominating the question in the Q&A session. So appreciate that, buddy. But any last things that you wanted to get off your chest, Lydia, that for our listeners out there, because you know they're gonna get to watch this again on YouTube.
oh no, nothing to get off my chest that's appropriate at this moment in
All
time.
right, perfect then. Okay.
You know, it's funny, we're talking about aesthetic and design today, and all three of us are wearing black.
Well, that's my color.
Oh, that's true. Although, if we're really honest with each other, there's a high probability that like we could just randomly meet a week from now and still all be wearing black. Pretty
We're all
dominant color
creatives.
in my life. Yeah. So, all right.
Well,
Well,
Brett, I think you looked super cool sitting in the background, like in your black background with your black outfit and like not saying much. And then when you did say something, it was like
impactful and perfect. Yeah.
That's our
that's our dynamic. That's how Brett shows up in life. Yeah.
perfect.
As I cut him
Thank
off
you.
to explain it to only further prove that that's exactly how it is. So, all right, Lydia, thanks so much. If you guys are interested in learning a little bit more about Lydia, go to mapleandmossdesigns.com. That's right. Or follow her on the Insta, which is very beautiful. Put that in the show notes as well. And remind everyone again, what's the new staging company that you sold Maple and Moss to? Congrats again, by the way, for selling that.
Thank you. Wall to wall interiors and staging. It's Emily and Cindy. They're in town. They're great.
Love it. All right, guys. Catch you in a few weeks.